Just go ahead and start. Okay. Good morning. My name's Destiny Spencer, and I'm the principal at Mary C. Snow Westside Elementary. And I am so proud to host this 10th anniversary celebration with AFT and First Book. We want to thank you guys for our care closet to help meet the needs of our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Don't go away. I just want to say a few words about Ms. Spencer. I'm Fred Albert, president of AFT West Virginia, by the way. But Ms. Spencer and I go back a long time. She maybe is not even aware of that, but I worked with her mother, Regina, an AFT member at Nitro Elementary School back, I won't say how many years ago. I think it was like my second year of teaching, but just a wonderful family. I'm so excited that Destiny is leading this school. She's going to do wonderful things. She has lots of energy. We were able to see her in action yesterday with a couple of students, and she just handled it with such grace, and I really appreciate you and all that you're doing here at Westside. Mary C. Snow, Westside Elementary. Thank you, Destiny. Wow. Thank you all for being here. It's hard to believe, as you and I both said, Reverend Watts, it's been 10 years. 10 years since we were in this same spot, doing the same type of thing. And there have been many changes, but it's been great. It's been a great 10 years. It's been 10 years for the Reconnecting McDowell project that Mrs. Manchin will speak to in a few minutes. We've done a lot of wonderful things, and it's just so nice to walk into this school. You have a great feeling when you come in here. It's bright, it's welcoming. The library is beautiful. You have far many more books than you did 10 years ago in here. Some of that is in fact due to First Book. But we thank everyone for being here, and I don't want to take a chance of missing anyone, but we appreciate Dr. Tom Williams, the Kanawha County Superintendent, for being with us today. Mrs. Becky Jordan, who is the Kanawha County President of the Board of Education. Mr. Ryan White, who is on the Board of Education in Kanawha County. Mrs. Deborah Sullivan, who is on our State Board of Education. Thank you all for being here. Mrs. Christina Young, who is the new principal at Westside Middle School. So excited for her and for her students. She was just named in that position last Thursday. So she's been a week on the job. And I know she's going to do wonderful things. Her energy level is exciting. They need you there at Westside, the best side. And she's going to do a fantastic job. Mr. Jerry Comer. Jerry, I will mess up your title, but I know you're helping all of the principals. Jerry was a principal at Overbrook Elementary School. He's now helping, working with, assisting. He's a resource for Ms. Spencer here at Mary C. Snow, Westside Elementary, for Christina Bridget at, that's Christina. Christina, I didn't get to meet you. Thank you for coming. She's the new principal at Edgewood Elementary School. Talked with her on the phone, but I haven't met you. Thank you for coming. So Jerry, Mr. Comer is helping them in their roles, and you could not ask for a better support. He's phenomenal. He's already proven that in Kanawha County. Students love him, teachers love him, and parents, I think, love him as well. So thank you for what you're doing, Mr. Comer. Also, Tracy White. Did you bring us cookies, by the way? Tracy White, another board member from Kanawha County Schools, and last but certainly not least, Senator Rich Lindsay here on the front row, our senator in the 8th District. So thank you for being here. He's our state senator in the 8th District, which encompasses Mary C. Snow, Westside Elementary. But it's an exciting day. I could talk about how exciting it is. 10 years ago in this very room, the very first, just think of that, in little old Charleston, West Virginia, the very first joint distribution took place with just a few hundred books for students and community members, but it has grown across the United States. This partnership has had a huge impact on AFT West Virginia members with tens of thousands of books for their classrooms every year. grant funding for care closets like you see here beside of me. And we're starting this year here at Mary C. Snow, Westside Elementary, at Edgewood Elementary, and at Westside Middle School. Grant funding for the care closets, basic need items and books, ongoing access for West Virginia educators serving kids in need to all of the First Book resources. I would like to now introduce a very important person, speaking of First Book, and I'm so excited that she traveled here to be with us today. Her name is Gail Zimmer. She is the CEO, president, and co-founder of First Book, a nonprofit that supports educators serving students in need and helping to build a path out of poverty through educational equity. Gail, please join us. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. You know, it is. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hardly ever have to use a microphone in a room this small because my voice carries, and you could interview all of the teachers I ever had in elementary school, and they would tell you that my voice carried even as a first grader, and they were constantly telling me to be quiet, I think. We're here to celebrate just this lovely, lovely event that started 10 years ago. And I like to think of it as our first 10 years of work together, Randy. And celebrating here in West Virginia is particularly meaningful to me, of course, because we launched our partnership here in West Virginia, but also because I have roots here. My mother was born and raised in Parkersburg, West Virginia, and I spent a lot of summers down there in Parkersburg. And I love this state, this beautiful state, and its people because they are, in fact, my people. And it was, in fact, that West Virginia mother of mine who had two top priorities as I was growing up. One was social justice, and the other one was education. And that mantra in my household growing up is why 30 years ago I started First Book. That's all right. It's why 30 years ago I started First Book with two friends of mine. And it was exactly and precisely that combination of social justice and education that I could feel when we first met with Randy and the whole team at AFT all those years ago in her offices in Washington. We have come a long, long way since then. And the AFT-First Book partnership, it really speaks to the exponential power of collaboration. With AFT's support, the First Book Network, and when I say that, what that is our online community of basically anybody serving in the lives of kids in need. It's classroom teachers, it's preschool programs, it's homeless shelters, it's domestic violence centers, it's healthcare settings, even barber shops in some communities. And so this online network has grown to 520,000 members, and we have over 1,000 members joining every single week for the last several years. Now, 1/3 of First Book's network are AFT members. That's over 163,000 people who have signed up with us with our movement to provide books, resources, and obviously an array of wonderful and essential needs for schools and for the kids they serve. Here in West Virginia, First Book reaches 249 Title I schools. That's about 75% of the Title I schools across the state. We have more than 2,000 educators in West Virginia signed up with us, and we're proud of those numbers. We're thrilled by those numbers, but we're not satisfied by those numbers because what we know is that we want every single eligible educator, formal settings, informal settings, to sign up with us. It's free. And it's wonderfully powerful, and they get a range of resources. So everyone you know who's serving kids in need, please tell them to go to firstbook.org. It takes about 5 minutes and get signed up. That's my advertisement. First Book has designed itself for 30 years, but especially over the last 10, to support our AFT members, but also to support everyone who has joined our network. And we do that by building we've built 3 major sort of interlocking programs. The first is called First Book Research and Insights. It's our research arm, and we've developed a strong and growing array of capacities that allow us, through surveys, on-the-ground research, and focus groups, to really listen to the practitioners who are every day in the lives of kids in need in all of these settings. We use those findings to inform what we build and refine what we build, but we also share those findings and lift them up to folks in government, in policy positions, even in academics, and as well in corporations who are designing curriculum and products for this group of kids. The second thing we've built is called the First Book Marketplace. It's a nonprofit e-commerce site. It is the first and only nonprofit e-commerce site of its kind in the United States. This site provides books at deeply, deeply discounted rates, and they're great books. We celebrate diversity in a large share. I think it's 60% of everything on the site. And we use that market strength of our growing network to push the prices down. An average cost of a book on our site is about $3.80, and that includes shipping, just to give you a sense, and obviously an array of other products as well. And finally, we built the First Book Accelerator. And the accelerator, what this is about is, how do you get the best experts who are developing deeply research-based strategies in critical areas that are of great importance to the practitioners? How do you get that information into the hands of practitioners in weeks and months instead of decades? And so for the accelerator, the First Book Accelerator, that's exactly what we do. We identify critical resources, critical issues, everything from reading acquisition, certainly, but also to how do you talk about race and inclusion in your classroom, in your program? How do you identify mental health issues? And what do you do with it once you've identified it? And we work with outside experts who are on the leading edge of these issues, and we make their strategies available for free through our First Book Marketplace. Now, the AFT has been with us every step of the way over these last 10 years of our growth. And our organizations have worked together on just amazing initiatives. We have distributed more than 7.5 million books. Here in West Virginia, First Book and AFT have enabled educators to select books and supplies for the kids they serve. And we've partnered on Reconnecting McDowell, where we've distributed over 40,000 books, as well as basic needs items across that county. At the national level, we've reached thousands and thousands of classrooms, supporting schools and educators and the millions and millions of kids they serve. We've supported together communities that were struggling with natural disasters like Hurricanes Sandy and Harvey. We've worked side by side to address the devastating impact of COVID-19. In fact, the bad news of COVID is obvious, right? But I will tell you that some of the most inspiring stories I've heard from our network have come during this period. Over 7,500 educators stepped up and started ran their own distributions with First Book and AFT out of their garages. They built ways to work with food centers, and food distribution centers. Some of them were selecting books, hand selecting books for the kids in their classrooms, and doing doorstop deliveries throughout the months and months of the crisis. Those educators, they take my breath away. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I cannot tell you, at 2 in the morning, when I'm up and I'm working and I'm exhausted, that is who I think about, and it keeps me going. So we are so proud to be your partners, Randy, and AFT members. And I wanted to present you with this photo. Thank you. This actually is a photo of kids from down here in West Virginia at one of our distributions. And I just wanted to represent the millions of kids we have reached together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kyle. And before you go,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to put this right up here.
you can't come to West Virginia without receiving something from West Virginia.
Well, I love
So we
that.
have a little gift for you, and what do you give a book company owner but a book? So enjoy that, and thank you so much for coming.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Next to speak to us briefly is Reverend Matthew Watts. He is the pastor of the Bible church here on Grace Bible Center, or Grace Bible Church here on the west side. A very important part of Mary C. Snow West Side Elementary. He was here 10 years ago, but it was because of his involvement that we got involved also with First Book and with AFT's partnership in First Book. So Reverend Watts, I know that you have a few words to say. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'd like to welcome my friends with First Book to the beautiful, wild, and wonderful and healthy west side of Charleston, and also my friend, Mr. Randy Weingartner, who I've known for over 10 years. I actually kind of met her here. And my longtime friend, Ms. Gail Manchin, who I've known forever. And we certainly appreciate all the support that the two of them have given. And I just want to publicly thank some people for what you're doing for the west side of Charleston. I want to thank the Kanawha County School Board, Dr. Williams here, some of the school board members, for the investment that Kanawha County schools have made in the west side of Charleston. And here, Mary C. Snow West Side Elementary, the investment in Edgewood, even investments in West Side Middle, and the other Grandview, which people kind of forget. We got another elementary school in the west side, Grandview, and the school that most people forget, the one that's really near and dear to my heart, is the Chandler Academy, where some of our most challenged students go from all over the county. And I thank the Kanawha County School Board for their support for all the schools here. And then secondly, I'm particularly excited, about what's happening in our schools. The schools on the west side, they are the crown jewels of this community. They're our pillars. They're the hope for a troubled community, these schools here. And what the principal, the teachers, and the staff do in our schools is literally incredible. Our community is going through a very, very difficult time. And sometimes things pass through the newspaper. We lost one of our most gifted, talented, most beloved young athletes a few months ago to a senseless shooting. And we have not recovered from that. The community is still in mourning. He's my grandson's best friend. And he hasn't recovered. He couldn't even go to school this fall because he just wasn't ready to deal with the pressure of school. And last week, we lost a 14-year-old girl to a violent shooting. Her mother was in my program when she was 14 years of age, some 20 years ago. And her father was in the program also during that period of time. And so these are things that we are groping with in this neighborhood. It's constant. I live one block down the street. This community never goes to sleep. Somebody's moving all night long. Something's happening all the time. And our children are caught in the crossfires. As I eulogized a young lady this past Monday, I told the young people that they had been robbed. They really had been robbed of what's supposed to be a birthright, right? That's the childhood of innocence. There's no time for innocence in this neighborhood. Kids are overexposed, they grow up too fast. And so our hope really is these schools. If we can get them to school and keep them in school, we know that the principal and the teachers and the counselors and the nurses are going to nurture them and encourage them and support them and really try to inspire them. So I want to thank all the people associated with these schools on the west side. I pray for you guys every day. And our church sets aside a time during our morning service to pray for our educators, because you guys, in my opinion, rank right up there with the medical profession. Y'all are the essential workers. Y'all putting your health on your line, your emotions are on the line every single day, and it's something that does not go unnoticed by people like myself. And finally, I'm really excited because when I see these young people taking over leadership of these schools, congratulate Ms. Young, glad to see her get this opportunity at Westside Middle, and Miss Bridget, who was here at Mercy Snow. We were going through a difficult time, and she came in and worked with Mrs. Plur and kind of helped get us moving in the right direction. Went down the cross lane, and she realized that the west side was the best side. So she had a brief period there where she forgot that, and we were so excited that she's up at Edgewood, at Edgewood Elementary. And then finally, like Fred said, I've known Destiny Spencer before she knew Destiny Spencer. Her mother and father are just great, very, very close friends of my wife and I. We were out there together in Cross Lanes when our kids was growing up. I'm really just excited for her and the passion and energy that she brings to what she's doing. And then last, to all of you teachers, you guys are unsung heroes. I went to segregated schools. They didn't integrate the elementary schools in West Virginia until late. So all my elementary education, except for 1 year, was in a segregated four-room school on the side of the hill, W. Du Bois. I never had a male teacher until I got to junior high. So I have great affection for female teachers. I think they're the best educators. I think they're the most brilliant minds, right? I really truly believe that. And so I'm really glad that we got these. I really believe it. I'm excited. I'm excited we got these three females, or four. I got right down in Grandview also, right? We got these 4 female principals leading these schools for these elementary kids. And I know they're going to lead us to the education promised land. So again, thank you, First Book. Thank you, Ms. Manchin. Thank you, Madam President, Gardner, Fred, for allowing me to come, and for all of you for being here. When we look at, I kid a friend of mine down in Mississippi, one of my closest friends, and a mentor. And I said, every morning I get up and I look toward Jerusalem and I open my window and I say, I thank God for Mississippi. And he said, why do you pray that prayer? I said, because Mississippi is below us in most social indicators, right? And so at least we're not last in everything. But on a more serious note, I'm grateful to First Book and AFT because we are first with First Books. Right. So we're going to build on being first with First Books and use that to create momentum, to educate our children, inspire them to higher academic achievement. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Reverend Watts, and we appreciate all that you do, and we certainly appreciate your prayers every morning, and especially those on Tuesday morning. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce someone who needs no introduction, our former First Lady. I guess once you're a First Lady, you're always a First Lady, but our First Lady, Gail Manchin, is with us today. She has stepped up in the world, I guess you would say. She is now co-commissioner for the Appalachian Regional Commission. I was very pleased to be at her swearing-in ceremony at the Clay Center, and it was a beautiful event. But she wants to come and just say a very few words about McDowell County, perhaps, and I won't steal your thunder, but Gail Manchin, thank you for being here. Mrs. Manchin.
Thank you, Fred. And like Kyle, my kids always referred to me as Thunder Lungs, so I very seldom ever needed a microphone. But I truly am here this morning to celebrate the 10 years of what is being given to our children here in West Virginia through First Books, to thank Kyle for her leadership. See, now we know it all came from the roots of West Virginia. Wonderful, yes. And to certainly thank Randy Weingarten, who has been a cohort in crime for many years throughout West Virginia, but particularly in reconnecting McDowell and the First Books that we took to McDowell County. I'm going to steal one little story, Randy. I hope it wasn't one that you were going to tell. But we're down in McDowell County. We're passing out these books to students. A little boy probably first grade, accepts the book. And you can tell he is genuinely thrilled to be getting this book. And he says, "Thank you so much. I'm going to take this home and put it in my library." And Randy said, "That's wonderful. How many books do you have in your library?" And he said, "This will be my first one." But that's the point.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. And so hopefully he has a library now with more than one book. But it is the future. I will just say this, it is an honor to serve as the federal co-chair for the Appalachian Regional Commission. I'm not the first woman in that position, but I am the first West Virginian, and I think that's important. West Virginia is the only state that is totally within the ARC. My opinion is it's about time we had a co-chair from West Virginia, and I'm honored to serve there. But what you are doing here is just the perfect example of what we do at ARC. It starts with local involvement, buy-in, and then the state comes in. So we have our local Board of Education, we have our state Board of Education, we have our state school superintendent, principals, teachers, families that live here that are benefiting from these wonderful programs, our teachers, the staff. And then, so you get local and state, and then at that third leg on that table is the ARC. We come in as a federal partner to share, support, advocate, invest in projects around the ARC, the Appalachian region. I have said since I was sworn in, I'm from West Virginia. West Virginia is my home. People that live here are my family. But I also believe in being fair and equitable, so I want all of the ARC to survive. I want it not only to survive, but to thrive. But I also want to make sure that West Virginia gets everything that West Virginia deserves and needs to move our state forward. So thank you for allowing me to be here. Fred, thank you for inviting me. Thank you all for being here, but more importantly, thank you for what you're doing every day to make a difference in the lives of these children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Manchin. And I remember a comment that you made at your swearing in that stuck with me. And she said, you know, Senator Mitch McConnell always says that Kentucky is the heart of the Appalachian region. Gail said, okay, that's all right. I'm going to say that West Virginia is the soul of the Appalachian region. And that stayed with me. So thank you for those words.
Thank you.
It's my honor now to introduce someone who definitely needs no introduction if you've turned on any news channel within the last few months. And we have fifth grade students joining us now. This is wonderful. They're coming, first grade. Some first graders coming in to be with us for the final part of this morning celebration. And then we're going to start giving them books. But Randy Weingarten came in last night from San Francisco. I do not know how she does this. But any TV station that you turn on, she's going to be on Hoppy later on today. So if you listen to the Hoppy Kercheval show on Metro News, she's going to be with him. I don't know how she continues to do this, but she is a terrific leader. She has such energy, proven that I hope you didn't have to take 5 flights to get here like I did from San Francisco the last time I was out there. But Randy just goes and goes and goes. She has so much energy, but it's all about events like this. You know, AFT has a national campaign right now called Back to School for All. We're all in. We all want to be back in school. We know that's the best place for all of us to be, both educators and students. But Randy has a few words to share with us this morning. It is my distinct honor to introduce her. We love it when she comes to West Virginia. She always brings us great news and great support, and her resources for West Virginia have been so noticed by all of our members. So Randy, I could go on and on, but I won't. Thank you for being here. Welcome back to West Virginia.
So, look, I want us just to turn around because those kids are why we're here. And I know I'm not your teacher, but give me a couple of minutes and then we're going to do a whole big thing with these books, which is, so I want to say thank you to Kyle, to Fred, to Reverend Watts, to my dear friend, the First Lady, Gail Manchin. Thank you, Tom, for being here. Thank you, Senator, for being here. Thank you to all these new principals. Thank you. Thank you to our members that are here. And I do want to say 2 or 3 things that I hope sticks with you, which is 10 years ago, what Gail Manchin didn't say was that we were sitting with her and the then governor at a breakfast and talking about what the issues were at that point. Remember, we were getting out of a recession that still seems to be a recession in West Virginia. We were trying to deal with a country which had just had a mortgage crisis that led to that recession. We were trying to deal with a country that had an opioid crisis. And what were we going to do about all of these things? And all of this, as Reverend Watts said back then to me, it disproportionately affected communities of color, disproportionately affected communities that were poor. I often think about this when that story you told, Gail, about that little kid who I bent down and said when he was so excited about getting the book and said it's going to my library and just kind of thrust out his chest and said that. And what that meant to him. Wealthy parents, they have books all over their homes. They read books to their kids. Kids hear thousands of words before their before they're 1, 2, 3. We, all the researchers, the teachers in this room know this. And so when Kyle and I met, and I said, oh my God, you can get these books cheaply for kids who are not wealthy financially, and we can do that together, and we can spark a love of reading. Yes, of course, reading is fundamental for kids to learn and the opportunity to learn, but we can spark a love of reading, and we can have a book that we can give to kids that are in their library, and we can do this. And this is something we can do? How do you say no to that? It felt like manna from heaven. It felt like, oh my God, we have to do this. And now, 10 years later, 60,000 books donated in West Virginia. 7.5 million, look, I'm a social studies teacher, I'm not a math teacher, but 7.5 million is a lot of books to me. 7.5 million books that we've given out to children and teachers and families throughout the country. That's what was born here in West Virginia 10 years ago. So we had an idea, but it was the stature of the First Lady. It was the stature of the Reverend. It was the sense of hope of all of you and who were sitting with us then. And it was the glee of kids who are coming in right now, that these are their books. We know reading is key to unlocking the world. But key to that is the joy of reading. It's the joy of having a book in your hands that's yours, that you can take the page and, dog tag it and do all those things and write on it, circle it. And the last thing I'll say is this. This is all part of what we do as educators. This is all part of what we do. As we were walking in, I asked a couple of kids in the class that we were walking in with, I said, how's the school year? And they're wearing their masks. Nobody wants to wear these masks. But we're doing it because of COVID. We're doing it to protect each other. We're doing it because we're a community that wants our kids to thrive. And like the Reverend said, and I'm glad we get into good trouble together, and I'm glad we get into good trouble and do it in McDowell County, and I'm glad we're trying to make that a model of how communities are not abandoned but revitalized. But it started with educators in West Virginia who know today, like they did 10 years ago, that together we can accomplish what is impossible to do alone. And that our North Star is that every single school should be a place that parents want to send their kids, educators want to work, and kids thrive. But we need the support, we need the resources, and we need communities to come together. And that's why we are doing this back to school campaign all across the country. 75 grants, $5 million we gave out to locals, about 1,800 locals throughout the country, who just like we are here today, celebrating and giving out books. We've been standing up vaccine clinics. We're doing huge fairs up in Providence, Rhode Island today. That's why I was in San Francisco, Petaluma, and all sorts of other places. I think I'm in 20 states this month. But it is about the nurturing of our kids. It is about the finding ways to make sure we have a welcoming and safe environment back to school this year, staying back in school, recovering, and then reimagining so that every kid can thrive. Thank you for what you do, because it's essential in repairing our nation and in giving us a shot to have the kind of country we need where everyone gets a shot, not just a vaccine, but everyone gets a shot in life. Thank you.
Randy, I know you get tired of people saying thank you, but we can never thank you enough. Here's a little West Virginia present for you as well. Thank you for being with us today. So, we have some really dignified people in this room, and they're back there. They're our students. And we had identified 3 students who were here 10 years ago. They were going to be with us today, but unfortunately, for circumstances beyond their control, they now attend Capitol High School, and Capitol unfortunately had to go on remote for the rest of this week. So these students couldn't be with us today, but I want to recognize Chastity Granger, who is now an 11th grader, Jayshana G., who is now an 11th grader. They were Mary C. Snow Westside Elementary students 10 years ago. And Aisha Brown, a 10th grader. They were going to be with us, and they were going to say a few words about how receiving that book impacted their life. It made them better students. It made them lovers of reading. I'm not sure what all they were going to say to us, but their spirit is still here. And their spirit will be here with us, with these 5th graders and 1st graders as they come through and receive their books. So, unfortunately, they couldn't be with us, but they are here in spirit, and they send their greetings to all of us. So what I would like for us to do now, the adults in the room, especially the principals, the board members, I would like for you all to go on the other side of that table, if you would, and help us out. We're going to have the students come down following Mrs. Getzinger, and they're going to come on this side of the table and get their books. So are we bringing the first graders through first? Okay, so this table on this end, if you'll go on the other side of the table, Mrs. Manchin, please join them. And you're going to hand books to students as they come through. Each student gets 2 books. Each student gets 2 books. We have bags to put them in and bookmarks for them as well. So we'll let the first graders come through first, and their table is here on this end. And then we're going to have the 5th graders come, and their books are down on the far end. 2 books for each student, and this will hopefully go into their libraries. So Randy and Gail and Kyle, feel free to join in handing out books. And Reverend Watts as well. All right, we have some wonderful looking, smart first graders here. Are you ready to get a book? Scholars. You look like wonderful scholars. Well, we are excited. Come on. Good morning. How are you? I like your mask. That is so nice. Look how nice everyone is walking.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? How are you all? First grade. That's a great grade. I love your mask. That is so cool. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? I love your mask. That is so cool. How are you today? I see that. You have soccer and you've got all the sports covered, don't you? Basketball, football.
Well, not all of sports.
Well, a lot of them, right?
Yeah, basketball, baseball.
Do you like first grade?
What do you like to read about?
Do you play football? Wow. What position do you play? You do what, honey? You do skipping? Can you skip? Are you a good skipper?
You can do a cartwheel.
Is that right? You know, I never could do.
I can do this morning.
Can you? Wow. He can't? I never was a very good skipper.
Good morning.
Really? Are you in gymnastics? Good for you. That'll make you strong.
Anything? Good. Well, you've got lots of I like your math.
She says she's a good skipper. She can skip. I said I never was a good skipper.
No.
How are you guys? Good.
This young lady says she's